Hello, I'm Nito the GNTG and welcome to Raging G. As many of you can guess, I'm a big fan of manga. That is the basic way of storytelling in a printed form, like comics, but in Japan. Some do call them Japanese comics, but it's not the same thing. So, when I started reading comics, I wanted to find a story that encapsulated the feeling one, filled with Japanese mythology, and many of the tropes that can be found in the many manga stories I've read. The comic that we'll talk about today manages to do that, bringing to the modern world the Japanese folklore, adding a big dose of realism and Japan's social structure and racism, with a colorful story and a small group of interesting characters. So, today's comic, Wayward from Image Comics. This comic was created by Jim Zabkowicz and Steve Cummings. It began in 2014 and was published by Image Comics, as it continues till this day, with around 22 issues at the time of the release of this video. Also, in this video, I'm going to talk about the first volume alone, with a little bit of info from the following ones. And I'd like to add a warning, since this contains blood, violence and self-inflicted trauma. It's not much or shocking, but better be sure. This story focuses on Rory Lane, our main character that has just arrived in Japan, and in her confused state, due to jet lag, sees a red thread guiding her home. We quickly find more about her, like that she's half Japanese and half Irish, that unfortunately had to leave her father behind in Ireland and live with her mother in Japan due to a terrible divorce. The same night, while wondering what was that red thread she saw, and living the nightlife in the bright and colorful Japanese streets, she encounters three people that quickly attack her. Before she even does anything, a weird girl attacks them and reveals that they are Kappa, and in her dazed state, she wants to escape and sees again those red threads. But this time, they show her a path on how to leave the area while making the wall falling behind her, defeating those Kappas. Rory quickly learns from that girl that saved her, called Ayane, that creatures like that, called yokai, have become bold and started to reveal themselves. The next day, while Rory is wondering what is happening, she sees again those red threads around a guy that sits alone and decides to follow him. She reaches a temple and sees this guy eating a spirit. Of course, she screams and tries to run away, but the guy catches up to her and they fight. But he is quickly subdued when Rory writes the word of weakness in his forehead with the red threads. We learn that the guy is called Shirai and he is cursed to live by consuming spirits, but in return is stronger than the average person. They decide to work together and find more clues, with the help of those weird red threads, beginning immediately the day after. They encounter a kid in an abandoned area with a skeleton ghost sitting on top of him, Ayane that appeared out of nowhere, and Shirai attack him, defeat him and save the boy in the process. That is called Nikaido and has the power to affect the feelings around him. Rory, reluctantly, becomes their leader and they work together to find more pieces of the puzzle as to why those creatures started appearing more and more around them before it's too late. While all those are happening, we'll also learn more about Rory's mother that knows about those red threads and works in a factory while hiding the fact that her daughter is in Japan, trying to protect her. Unfortunately, our main villain finds out about it and goes to her house, and we see Rory running home after the diversion that was set up to take her away from her mother, but it's too late. Her mother dies in front of Rory's eyes and in her confusion writes the words destruction with her threads, making her home to explode, and she and Sakai are presumed dead by Ayane and Nikaido. This is basically the first volume of Wayward, but the adventure doesn't end here. There are many more issues that show more about those powers, more people who obtained them, and many more mythological creatures and what's happening around Japan and how slowly it affects the entire world. A magnificent thing about Wayward is how precise it is with Japan. They managed to portray mythological and folklore creatures in a precise and respectful manner, with much information at the end of the book, in order to give the reader as well knowledge of those beings called yokai, something that I found interesting and unique. Another thing though in Japan is that they are a little bit more racist, and they do kind of drastic stuff to lower people becoming troublemakers and instead to become functioning members of society. I say that because in the comic it shows the teacher of Rory's class telling her to dye her hair brown or black and letting them to grow, because her hair is the sign of a troublemaker. A change that I didn't like is while in the single issues it contains pages like this that tells you more about culture of Japan and things like the races that I mentioned before, those pages were cut off in the bigger volumes, but they kept the pages talking about the yokais. Other than that, the volume didn't have any other major changes, except that the lighting was different in a few panels here and there. But like I said, nothing major, like the Sunstone review I did a while ago. You can see it here. Something else that I did like, at the beginning at least, was how many things we learned about Rory, since it took time to build her as a character. Unfortunately, for the last 2 issues, those were brought almost to a halt. Also, the rest of the cast is underdeveloped, other than that a few details here and there, something that bugged me for a while. It builds a veil of mystery, but it doesn't allow the reader to connect with them other than the "whoa, he eats spirits" or "she's a cat lady" part, and that's unfortunate. Another example of this is when we see Rory in the first few issues cutting herself, making the cancer for Hitori, or alone in Japanese in her arm. This issue wasn't touched upon in the rest of the volume other than that brief period. This changes in the next issues and they get more characterization, but for the first volume they are kinda weak. Let's dive a little bit more into the panel layout and the colors though. The panels don't do something drastic or amazing. They are good and allow for the story to progress naturally, but the art in it is amazing. The characters are detailed and simply delightful to see. Plus those backgrounds, they are detailed, they are properly calculated, their dimensions are perfect, the Japanese in them are correct, and they are hints for things to come, for people that are wondering, and in those double spread pages, it's divine. I love the backgrounds, but it's not just the backgrounds and the designs alone. It's the amazing color work of Tamra Bonvillain as well. She knows when to use vivid colors and when they should be dark and gritty. This is a comic that plays with the blue and red colors, especially with the red colors, since they look like wildfire, but warm and welcoming at the same time. If I do have a problem, it is with the sound effects. They look like cheap clip art at moments, and that kinda distracts me at least at times. So, close enough. Is Wayward a good comic? Yes. It's a nice story, focusing on Japanese folklore with a good cast of characters, with amazing colors and good designs. My problem is that we don't know where the story goes. It's interesting to read, and I'm excited for the deal with Manga Entertainment for a show they'll do with this property, but I have no idea where are they going with this. I do want to follow it though. Is this good though, if you want to buy it? Unfortunately, no. The first volume collects the first 5 issues, costing at the time of the release of this video $10. The second one was also 5 issues, costing 17, almost double the price, and I have no idea why. If you do want it, you should go big, with a big hardcover collected edition, since not only it has the first 10 issues, but it has the cut pages of the Japanese essay at the end of each page. It's $40, but it has a lot of things in it. And that was it for this video. I'm NTG, and until next time, keep reading. And that was it for this video. If you did enjoy it, click here to see another one, and click here to subscribe. See ya on the next video. Bye.